We had part one of this next story yesterday, and now it's actually gotten even more interesting. Right-wing propaganda network Newsmax has now been forced to debunk its own election lies due to a legal threat from the voting machine company Smartmatic, which both demanded a retraction and reserved its right to take legal action. Yesterday, I told you that after 6 weeks of spreading all sorts of debunked lies about election fraud, Lou Dobbs on Fox aired a clarifying segment saying basically none of that stuff I said was true. Newsmax has now done the exact same thing. So let's take a look at this is anchor John Tobacco. That's his real name as far as I know, issuing clarifications. And the title of this clip should really be, "We don't want to get sued."
Since Election Day, various guests, attorneys, and elected officials have appeared on Newsmax and offered opinions and claims about Smartmatic and Dominion Systems, both companies that offer voting software in the U.S., and Newsmax would like to clarify its news coverage and note that it has not reported as true certain claims made about these companies. There are several facts our viewers and readers should be aware of. Newsmax has found no evidence that either Dominion or Smartmatic owns the other or has any business association with each other. We have no evidence that Dominion uses Smartmatic software or vice versa. No evidence has been offered that Dominion or Smartmatic used software or reprogrammed software that manipulated votes in the 2020 election. Smartmatic has stated that its software was only used in the 2020 election in Los Angeles, was not used in any battleground state contested by the Trump campaign. Newsmax has no evidence to the contrary. Dominion has stated the company has no ownership relationship with the Pelosi family, the Feinstein family, the Clinton family, Hugo Chavez, or the government of Venezuela. Neither Dominion nor Smartmatic has any relationship with George Soros. Smartmatic is a U.S. company and not owned by the Venezuelan government, Hugo Chavez, or any foreign official or entity. Smartmatic states that it has no operations in Venezuela. While the company did election projects in Venezuela from 2004 to 2017, it was never founded by Hugo Chavez, nor did it have a corrupt relationship with him or the Venezuelan government. For more on this, please go to our website at newsmax.com.
If that isn't a guy being held hostage by the company's lawyers, I don't know what is. So just like with yesterday's Fox clip, the Newsmax anchor says there's no connection between Smartmatic and Dominion. Votes weren't manipulated by the voting machines. The machines in question weren't used in battleground states. There's no connection to Nancy Pelosi or Hugo Chavez or the Clintons or Venezuela. George Soros has nothing to do with this. And it's really quite stunning. And just like I said yesterday, lots of the Newsmax audience will hear this, but they're not going to believe it because they will believe that the Newsmax host was forced to do this, which he was essentially because of the legal demand letter that was received. But I'll actually even go further. How do you make up for 5 weeks of spreading disinformation, 7 weeks almost at this point, hundreds of times with this one segment? This is the Lou Dobbs segment, similar to what we just saw on Newsmax. This was yesterday on Fox Business. Take a look.
Lots of opinions about the integrity of the election, the irregularities of mail-in voting, of election voting machines and voting software. One of the companies is Smartmatic, and we reached out to one of the leading authorities on open source software for elections, Eddie Perez, for his insight and views. Eddie is the Global Director of Tech Development at the Open Source Election Technology Institute. We asked him for his assessment of Smartmatic and recent claims about the company.
Have you seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to flip votes anywhere in the U.S. in this election?
I have not seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to delete, change, alter anything related to vote tabulation.
Smartmatic says its software was never used outside of L.A. County in 2020. Do you know whether or not that's true?
That is my understanding. Smartmatic functioned as the contract manufacturer for the Los Angeles County voting system, and that was a customized system that was effectively built to the county's order. I am not aware of them having any other direct customers, relationships with election officials in the United States.
What about Smartmatic and Dominion? Do you know if they're related, whether one owns the other, whether Dominion uses Smartmatic software?
Both Dominion and Smartmatic have individually and respectively put out very clear statements from their corporate headquarters, each of them indicating they are independent companies. They are not related to each other. It is my understanding that neither one of them has an ownership stake in the other or anything like that.
So almost identical information is being conveyed in the two videos. Clearly, they don't want to face the lawsuits that they were being threatened with. But I just don't know how 1 2-minute fact check once makes up for spreading this stuff for going on 2 months. But of course, they're doing the absolute minimum to either avoid being sued or to mitigate damage if indeed they are sued. That's all they care about. Now, here's a bonus clip for you. This is great. Host Sebastian Gorka is interviewing the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And Mike Lindell starts going into the voter fraud conspiracies, and Seb Gorka actually cuts him off because he clearly has been advised we can't keep repeating this stuff. Take a look.
I believe in this president, and I'll tell you what, nobody realizes, what a miracle we had on election night at 11:15. You talked about all this fraud, Doctor. The biggest fraud is the Dominion machines. And at 11:15 on election night, our great president, because of everything
Mike, I don't want to discuss, Mike, we're not going to get into the minutiae of the details. I want to ask you, because this show is about courage.
So Seb Gorka, they're desperate to get away from that topic before they end up with another legal threat. So the headlines go on the front every day for 6 weeks, and then they put a correction on the back page once. That's the equivalent of what they're doing here. Fox News was told in the letter from the Smartmatic lawyers, you need to claim there wasn't fraud with the same amount of frequency and intensity as the number of times you claimed there was fraud. Clearly, Fox News hasn't done that. Clearly, Newsmax hasn't done that for now. But my concern is less legal than it is about the reality that the damage has been done by their harping on this stuff for 6 weeks. They may get sued anyway because their lies were so egregious. But the problem is when you do this for 6 or 7 weeks, the correction is irrelevant. You're not going to change any of your own audience's mind because they understand that you were clearly forced to do this and that what you said for 6 weeks is the truth as they see it. Will OAN have to do the same? I don't know. We're keeping an eye on that. But this is already a sign that, as I've been saying for several weeks now, the right-wing media landscape for the next several years is going to be very interesting, regardless of what Donald Trump does. And we'll be following it. And we'll have more of these clips on the David Pakman Show Instagram page, which you can find at David Pakman Show.